Hello, my name is William Kendall from French Lick, Indiana, and I got a little background as being a caddy here. Probably I started when I was 8 years old, and I'm 75 years old now, so I was back there when they didn't have golf carts. And then I assistant pro here in the 70s, early 70s. I was assistant pro for 6 years, and then I left here and become a head pro at Crane Golf Course at the Naval Base in Crane. And they want me to talk some about the caddies back then. And I was, in 1951, I was 8 years old, and I started caddying. That's when I started caddying at the Valley Course. And back then, like I said, there weren't no carts, but everybody had a caddy badge number. And the caddy, you had to have a number. So what we did is you try to find somebody that had a caddy badge that wanted to sell it. They didn't caddy anymore, so that's where we got our number. Another thing that always fascinated me was that you can ask about anybody a lot of stories or ask them a question about what this or that, and they can always tell you what their caddy badge number was. And then from there on, I've seen a lot of changes up here. I started caddying at the Valley Course. Like I say, I was down there for probably 6 years, and I come up to what we called the Hill Course, and I come up here and caddied then, and I caddied in the LPGA tournament they had years ago. I caddied 3 years in it, and also I caddied in the Midwest Amateur Golf Tournament up here, which, as everybody knows, is Pete Dye, and I caddied for Pete Dye when he won the tournament up here. So that's one of the things. But back then, when we were...
Pete Dye won the tournament?
Yes, he won the tournament, the Midwest Amateur.
Okay, yeah.
But Pete's story told Pete is I met him later on in life up here, and he introduced me to him. And Pete said, "You caddy for me?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "You must have been a heck of a caddy," because I wasn't much of a golfer. And I said, "Pete, you was a heck of a golfer. I was a good caddy, but you was a heck of a golfer too." But anyway, when we were kids, what we did was we would get out of school to caddy. You know, if they needed to caddy, extra caddies up here, if they had a golf tournament or something, we'd get out of school to caddy. They give us permission to get out, and we'd come up here and caddy. Back then, you know, there wasn't a lot of work around here and things, so the caddies, and you know, this was a poor community around here, and a lot of the caddies would do this to go get their school books and stuff and their clothing, and that's how they started caddying. And at one time, I'd say we probably had at least 100 caddies at each golf course or more. But we had a good time. It's a lot of families around here. About everybody was a caddy, and that was like I say, I caddied here from probably when I was 14 years old till I was probably 17 years old. And then that's when I started out. I was a cart boy for a while. And then I worked the locker room for a while. And I was a starter for a while. And then I went to work at Crane up on the base. And a friend of mine got the pro job here, so he asked me if I wanted to get into golf and be his assistant. I said, sure. So I became his assistant, and I was in golf professional down for 40 years. I've been in PGA golf professional now, a lifetime member. But there's a lot of history here on caddies. We had caddies when I first started. We had caddies from 8 years old to probably 72 years old. At one time, they took a picture of us and put it in a card or something. The oldest caddy and the youngest caddy. And I was 8, and the oldest caddy was 72. But these old caddies, and you know, and a lot of them, you know, we'd sit around when times is tough back here and slow. You know, you might not be 4 or 5 people play golf all day long. That's all you get. So we'd stay around, and the thing about caddying is once you got out caddying, they'd put your number down on a list. And once your number came to the top, then that's when you got out caddying, and when you finished your round, you'd put your name back on the bottom again. And then you just rotate up, and that's how your number would come up. But like I say, you know, we had a lot of full-time caddies, but then we had a lot of, we didn't call them caddies, we called them bag toters. We called caddies, and caddies knew what they were doing and could club you and give you yardage. A bag toter, all he did was just carry the bag. He didn't know nothing else. So we did that a lot. And we'd sit around up here when it's slow, and we'd get on a big tree and play some kind of card game, and we were the kids, so we didn't get to play a lot. But then the older caddies, big time, they would go down in the woods and play for bigger money in a card game. They'd have a card game down there and play for big money. But it's enjoyable. I think everybody should at one time. They don't know what they're missing if they won a caddy years ago. We really enjoyed it. And it's a thing right now is that none of us regret it. And even if you see somebody you haven't seen in years, they'll mention when we used to caddy together. I mean, nothing else, but it says, when we used to caddy together, and that's the best times. I had a gentleman come in here last year that has done real well since he left here. And the first thing he came up here and he said, Bill, remember when we used to caddy up here in the caddy shack right over here? And I said, yeah, I do remember that. So it was a wonderful time back then. And like I say, we made good money. I think when I finished caddying, I think it was, we were making $4 a bag up here caddying. And a lot of us, we'd carry double a lot of times. And which would be twice. And, we carried 2 rounds up here double. And we were kids, so you know how hard that would be. So we just kept that going and kept it going. And it was great. We really enjoyed it.